The new Hearthstone expansion, Festival of Legends, is right around the corner, and with it comes a ton of exciting new cards. So in this video, I theorycrafted 11 new decks, one for each class, ready for you to use on day one of the new expansion. Welcome to the show. I'm Funky Monki, your go-to off-meta deck builder, and in this video, we're going to be going over 11 different theorycraft decks for the new expansion, one for each class. All the decks that you're about to see, I try to make them as unique and different as possible while still keeping them competitively viable. I know you're probably as excited as I am to play with these new decks, so let's hop into deck number one. Alright, so the first deck up is going to be this Paladin with Big Paladin, and this is pretty much possible all because of one card, and that's Kangor Dancing King. This guy is just ridiculous, so every time he dies, he gets to cheat out a big minion from your hand, and he also goes back to your hand, so you get to do it all over again. And we are also running the lead dancers to possibly pull Kangor out of our deck, or the Anoyo troop out of our deck. And then some other big minions that we're running are going to be Neptalon and Ragnaros and Leviathan, because these are just some massive minions to end the game. And we do also run Masked Revelers to cheat out all these big minions as well. So you can see once we get past that mid game, we're just going to be pumping out the gas with this deck. And because we're running only big minions in this deck, we have to utilize a lot of spells in the early game, but we have a lot of new additions from the core set to help us out with that. So we have the buffed up Consecration and Hammer of Wrath. We're also getting Muster for Battle and True Silver Champion back again. And then we also have another really cool new card from this expansion, and that's Starlight Groove. So every time we cast a holy spell, we get a Divine Shield casted on our face, and that's going to protect us from a lot of damage. Yeah, this deck looks super fun, and I mean, who doesn't love cheating out some big minions? The next deck up is going to be this Light Show Mage. And this deck is all built around, you guessed it, Light Show. So what Light Show does is it does 2 damage to 2 targets, and the more times you cast it, the more targets it'll hit. So we can discover more copies of Light Show with cards like Volume Up or Rewind. If Light Show is the highest cost spell in our hand, we can even copy it with the Audio Splitter, and we can get even more copies with Commander Savara. So you can see these Light Shows will start adding up fast. And to add even more fuel to the fire, we can juice up our Light Shows even more with Egwin to give them all spell damage, so it does 4 damage to every target instead of 2, and we can cast them twice using Vexillus. And because most of our deck is arcane spells, we can utilize cards like Magister's Apprentice to make them all cheaper, and we can also get arcane bolts to our hand using Arcane Worm and Arc Splitter, and they become 0 mana with the Apprentice. And because we're casting so many Light Shows throughout the game, we can really utilize the new weapon Cosmic Keyboard, which every time you play a spell, you get a minion equal to its mana cost. So every time we cast a Light Show, we get a free 3/3 minion. Yeah, watch out for this deck, because those Light Shows will really surprise you for how fast they can ramp up the damage. The next performer we have is going to be Shaman with this big Overload Shaman. So this deck pretty much centers around the weapon Jazz Base, because the more Overload cards we play while this is equipped makes our next spell that much cheaper when we break our weapon. And in this deck, we're going to be cheating out from the other side. So the big minions that we're going to be cheating out from the other side are going to be Flesh Behemoth, which can pull the Blightblood Berserker or Harkener of Dread. We're also running Rivendare to help win some of those long games, and a couple Masked Revelers to pull all them out of our deck as well. And no Overload Shaman deck would be complete without Jive Insect. So like sometimes if you don't have from the other side in hand, you can just cheat out a 0 mana Ragnaros. Yeah, Shaman actually looks a lot more viable than I thought, and this deck looks so much fun too, so I can't wait to play this one. And I mean, I do love my big decks. Coming in at the next deck is going to be this Hero Power Druid. Now this one is interesting because it uses a lot of different packages. I think pretty much every Druid deck will want to run the Hero Power package because it's that good, which consists of the Free Spirit to boost up your Hero Power's armor, the Groovy Cat to boost up your Hero Power's attack, and the Peaceful Piper to tutor either one of them. So being able to start ramping up your Hero Power early on provides a lot of value throughout the game. And not only that, we can actually take advantage of all of our attack with Rake, so we can kill a couple things and get some free card draw with Spread the Word. And then the next package we have is going to be like the token package, and that's going to be the Timber Tambourine and the Rhythm and Roots to set up some big 5/5s. So when the Rhythm and Roots awakens or when our weapon breaks, we get a board full of 5/5s, and then we can buff them all up with the Drum Circle. And then ramping into the late game, we also have another package, and that's going to be the Zoc Anubra Khan package. So what you can do with this combo is you can play Anubra Khan, play a couple of Underkings to get a bunch of armor, and then play Zoc, because the taunts that Zoc summons are equal to the attack and armor that you've gained this turn. And you can easily get 20 plus armor with the Underkings in that turn, so you can get like 20 health taunts, and especially especially if you weave in like a hero power or rake with that for attack, you can summon some like 520 taunts with Zoc, and that pretty much just ends the game in a lot of matchups. Yeah, this deck looks really solid, and it actually felt really good too when I played it for the early access theory crafting event. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one as well. Coming on stage next is going to be Demon Hunter with this Rush Outcast Demon Hunter. So this is a very aggressive low curve deck, so that way we can take advantage of all the outcast stuff a lot easier. Like some of the aggressive cards that we're running that help manipulate our hand, we got Dispose of Evidence and the Bibliomite to take out whatever we want to make those outcasts easier and to apply a lot of early game pressure. And honestly, we don't mind dumping our hand with this deck because we have insane refill using the Wretched Exile. You can just keep chaining together a bunch of cheap outcast cards for a lot of value that way. And we also have the weapon, and this weapon is absolutely nuts because a lot of our outcast cards are so cheap, it's really easy to play a lot of them, so we can just draw basically a full handful of cards with the Glaive Tar when it breaks. And of course, for our finisher, we are using the Halveria Dark Raven because she just synergizes so well with the Vengeful Wallopers and the new security card. I wouldn't underestimate this deck because this actually is kind of sneaky good. Our next guest at the festival is going to be this new Imp Fatigue Warlock, and this deck is all built around the new Fatigue package, and that's going to be Crescendo, the Baritone Imp, and the Crazed Conductor. And because the Baritone Imp and the Crazed Conductor summons imps, I figured let's go ahead and build an Imp Warlock. So not only can we make a huge Baritone Imp and some really wide boards with the Crazed Conductor, because these Fatigue cards damage us, we are going to be using the Fellstring Harp to help mitigate some of that damage and heal us so we can last until the late game. And we do also have some other synergy in here too, like with our hero power or like with the Flame Imp. And we also do have the Void Virtuoso to help mitigate some of that fatigue damage as well. And then headed into the late game, we are going to take advantage of the new Symphony of Sins because it's just so much value and so many powerful plays once you get to the late game. And there are actually a lot of symphonies that do affect your minions. Like there's some board and hand buffs. There's one that draws your highest cost minions. We can draw our Denathrius. There's one that does 6 damage to your opponent. So I think it actually fits really well into a deck like this. I know Imp Warlock may not be too new of a deck, but we have a lot of cool new cards to kind of give it a different feel. All right, so this next deck, a lot of you guys said would be terrible, and it's Menagerie Warrior. I got to playtest this deck for the early access theory crafting event, and I hate to break it to you guys, but it seemed pretty good. It doesn't do anything too flashy, it just plays good minions on curve, but it gets the job done and it felt very aggressive. This deck centers around playing as many different kinds of minions as possible, so we can take advantage of like Rockmaster Voon to double all those different kinds of minions in hand, or play like Roaring Applause to draw for every kind of minion, and even play the Power Slider to get a buff for every kind of minion that we play. So there's just so much synergy in here. And all the amalgams that we have, like Mistake, or the Amalgam of the Deep, or the One Amalgam Band, they count as whatever minion tribe you have not yet played. So because we can splash so many different kinds of minions, it's a very versatile deck. Like we got taunts, we got rushers, we got draw, we got healing. So watch out for this deck. It might be a sleeper OP deck of the expansion. For the next deck up, we're about to go metal with this Rainbow Death Knight. So the big new payoff for this deck is the Climactic Necrotic Explosion, which damages your opponent and then summons a board full of big dudes. And it gets upgraded the more corpses you spend throughout the game. Some other new cards that we're putting into this deck is like the Lifesteal package. So we have the Arcanite Ripper, which honestly is just good by itself. If you just traded in 2 things with this, you automatically get a 3/3 Lifesteal minion with it. And we also have the Screaming Banshee in here, which is great with the Arcanite Ripper and also like following up with a Gnome Muncher. And we also get to play with the kind of newish Frost Queen Syndragosa. I know she didn't get a whole lot of play before rotation, but now she finally gets to shine. Now you'll also probably notice that we don't really have many corpse spenders in here, because honestly, there's not a whole lot of efficient corpse spenders you can run in a Rainbow Death Knight, so a lot of the corpse spending is going to be relied on what we can discover. But overall, this actually looks like a really solid deck and probably the best chance we've had at a Rainbow Death Knight so far, so I'm really excited about this one. Next up to the stage is going to be Rogue with this new Combo Rogue. So this deck is going to combine the old Miracle package with the new combo stuff. So the big payoffs for all the combo stuff, we have the Rhyme Spinner, so the more combo cards that you play throughout the game, the bigger this thing gets. And the nice thing about this is you can Shadow Step it over and over again, or you can use the new Breakdance card on it, so you can get some big rushers. And then we also have the Record Scratcher, which allows us to mana cheat based on the number of combo cards that we've played. So you can use this in combination with like Draka or the Location for some big dudes or some big weapons. And then of course we always have some fun bouncing shenanigans in here too. So like we have the Beatboxer that we can Shadow Step over and over again for some damage. Or like if we want to go late game, we have the Astalor. And you can do some even crazier things too. Like if you have like an Astalor and a few minions on the board, you can play Bounce Around, get them all to your hand and play them all again. And from there, you just got to do a bunch of fun rogue shenanigans. All right, so the second to last performer we have up on stage is going to be this Priest with Overheal Priest. So there's just an absolute ton of support and synergy now for Overheal Priest. So basically the gist of this deck is you just want to go wide with a bunch of your Overheal minions like the Crimson Clergy or Holy Champion or Mana Geode or the Heartthrob. And then you just want to try and be healing your minions every single turn for some tempo. Like you can gain attack from it or you can summon minions from it. And just try and pressure your opponent that way. If we have a lot of minions on the board that we want to activate multiple overheals on, we have some kind of AoE heals. We have the Dreamboat to heal all of our stuff. We have the new Fan Club location, as well as the Herald of Light. And this can be absolutely insane. On like a Heartthrob, you get to summon a 6-cost minion if you overheal the Heartthrob, and then follow that up with like a Flash Heal for 1 mana to get a 5-cost minion. Like you can see, even though we're healing our minions, the tempo does start to add up very quickly. And then we can go ahead and finish off our opponents with the Heartbreaker Hadanis. So every time you overheal it, it starts chipping down your opponents. So we'll have to see how this deck performs, but honestly, it's looking pretty good so far. So it might surprise you. And our closing act tonight is going to be one that I just had to make, and it's going to be Banana Monkey Hunter. So this hunter utilizes a lot of the cheap spells that we have, like the Bunch of Bananas or the Barrel of Monkeys, to take advantage of a lot of cards that need a lot of spells to activate them. Like the Ancient Krakenbane needs 3 spells to activate, or the Jungle Jammer, we can juice that up a lot by playing a lot of these cheap spells. And a lot of these spell synergies naturally fit with Nagas as well. Like we can take advantage of Barbed Nets, or like the Aerosmith or the Rajnajan, so every little banana or monkey that we summon will damage our opponents. And then we have one of my favorite new tempo cards in here of the expansion, that's going to be Pazik. It's just so many stats for just 4 mana. And then we can polish off our opponents with the good old Dragonbane that's now in the core set as well. Yeah, this deck looks super aggressive, and this might be the way to go for Hunter now. Well, that's going to wrap up the show and all the theorycraft decks that I have ready for you to use on day 1 of the new expansion. It takes me a long time to build and refine each one of these decks, so if you enjoyed them or if you got some good ideas, then let me know by leaving a like down below. And while you're there, let me know which deck are you looking forward to playing most for the new expansion. And if you love off-meta decks, that is all I do. So if you want to see the coolest and best off-meta decks for the new expansion, then consider subscribing. But I'll see you at the festival, and stay funky.